Hi and welcome to Omni Edition Garden City. I am Dan York, and with me right now in a very special program is Dale Dougherty, the 15th city manager in the history of the city of Garden City. Welcome to our program and welcome to Garden City.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being here.
So this is kind of a broad-based question, but tell us about yourself. How did you end up in Garden City? What is your path that brought you here?
I love snow. That was
well, congratulations, you hit the right place.
I'm born and raised in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I grew up in the pharmacy business. My father owned a pharmacy, Dougherty's Pharmacy, for about 47 years. My brother and sisters all grew up in that business, so customer service was something we talked about often, and how to treat the customer and do the best for everybody. So I ended up going to King's College, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, up in the Pocono Mountains for healthcare management. Was my undergrad. And while I was in college, I coached a little high school football. I went to bartending school. I was in concert promoting, a little bit of everything. As my mother says, the jack of all trades, master of none. From there, though, I was looking at going to grad school. So I ended up going to the United States Sports Academy in Daphne, Alabama, near Mobile, where I obtained my first master's. But for my thesis, I created the High School Football All-American Bowl. It was at the time when McDonald's was the only basketball type of national all-star game. And I questioned big athletes then, Peyton Manning and others. I sent letters out to everybody, would you play in a national all-star game? And it came back that they would. So that was my thesis. I had left back to Pennsylvania to actually create the national all-star game.
So where was that first one played?
In Allentown, Pennsylvania on ESPN2
okay.
At the time. And while I was putting that together, I ended up picking up a job as a general manager of a 10-room nightclub banquet facility.
Okay.
So I'd have 3 weddings, a funeral, bar mitzvah, retirement party. At the same time, I'm putting on the All-American Bowl, and then I meet my beautiful wife on a blind date.
Okay.
24 years ago, we talked about on the blind date having 5 children close in age. So today we have a 12-year-old, a 14, a 15, a 17, and an 18. So we have 5 kids in 6 years.
So your last job was in Florida, and we'll get to that. But
Yep.
your family's still there
Yes.
until the summer,
Yep.
until school is done.
Yes, we do homeschool the kids, but they take part because of the Tim Tebow law that you can take part in local school district activities. 2 of my children are heavily involved in the ROTC program at the local high school, and of course they run track and take part in other activities. My 2 daughters, junior and senior in high school, are in dual enrollment classes also, so they're taking some college courses. But so they're going to be coming up by the end of May. So I'm going to make a couple of trips down to visit them. But what I ended up doing was really got into government at that point. In '95, my first time was in South Florida. I went down to the town of Lake Park. It's near West Palm Beach area. And the position was Director of Parks and Recreation, which we changed over to Community Affairs because I really was involved in all aspects of government. It was
Sure.
my first foray into that business.
And you didn't have specific Parks and Recreation experience, but you
No.
had gone to sports management
Yes.
school and
Yep.
you had a background in coaching, so
And-
it wasn't
yeah.
totally foreign.
Nope, and it was one of those where the manager, best manager I ever had, Terry Larry, had said,
Terry Larry?
Terry Larry was her name, and she said, I don't care what you do, just do something. And it was really opened up the door to go, okay, let's do some great stuff. So I got into the CRA, which is a downtown development like we have here in Garden City. I was heavily involved in the creation of that with her, historical preservation, and then a bond issue. We passed a bond issue. I was the campaign manager, where everybody was against it from the start until you're able to really explain to people, here's what it's going to cost and here's the benefit and what's going to happen, and be very honest about it. We passed that bond issue successfully, and it really helped redevelop the community. But after about 12 years down there, I'm very much a strategic thinker. I tell people I work for the government, but I'm not a government worker. So at that point, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to recalibrate my skills. I went home to my wife and children, and at that time they were all born. And I said, you know, I'm going to go get my MBA. I'm going to attend the University of Notre Dame. And my wife looked at me with a straight face and said, they'll never accept you. But they did. 9 months later, we're on our way up to Indiana, back to the snow for the first time for the kids.
Yeah.
And enjoyed our time there, which I then led to, after graduation, down to South Carolina. I worked with a commission, led the commission for some great success down there, and then over to Macon, Georgia, where it was interesting starting out as working with the city of Macon. Within a short time, they transferred our departments, several of us, up to the county, and a short time after that, we transferred back to become a full consolidated government. So to this day, there's no longer the city of Macon, Georgia. There's no Bibb County. It's now Macon-Bibb.
That had to be quite a thing to
Oh,
go
it
through.
was great. It was about 150 employees to transfer from different leadership from the city to the county and then halfway home. Worked great for us. We enjoyed the time, but now there was a SPLOST was passed, which is a local sales tax of 1 cent, which gave my department $40 million in development, and it gave us the opportunity to really just revolutionize what Parks and Recreation is. By that point, it really gave me a well-rounded basis for government and also, especially in my specialty, which was Parks and Rec, which was down in South Florida, a lot of special events and activities and parades and festivals, fireworks, and anything you can imagine. In South Carolina, it was much more about leagues and tournaments and organization there. In Georgia, it became much more redevelopment and maintenance and facilities and construction, and it really gave me a basis. And all of that had to do with finance, because by the time I got down to Tampa, now I have 330 employees down there, $28 million budget, $83 million in construction. So all of my skills that I've learned in government over the 20 years really came to fruition there, and great success down there. But it was one of the things I really wanted to get was focus on the management side and looking at some opportunities. Garden City, came about, and I did a lot of research on the community. I spent a lot of time watching videos, watching you on television.
And you came still, huh?
Yes. And to me, it was just a Midwestern values kind of community, and I see that as just people that go to work, go home, take care of their families, and live a good life. And I saw that with the council from the start, from all the meetings I watched, from the citizens getting up at the council meeting and the articles I read. I know the city went through a lot of hard times over the last number of years, but it looks like they're coming out of it a little bit at this point financially and looking for direction where to go. And I just thought what a great opportunity it could be for myself and my family to be able to lead an organization that we could be successful at.
All right, let me backtrack a little bit in case people don't know. We've done programs about it, but without a newspaper, sometimes the word doesn't get out anymore. Bob Murray, who had been the city manager, chief of police here for about 5 years, announced his retirement during the month of December. And really, we kind of went from 0 to 60 because the interview process, the deadline to file was just after Christmas.
Yes.
The interview process was in January, right?
January.
And bing, bang, boom, by March 1st, you're the manager here.
Yep, absolutely.
And that had to be a tough thing for you with family back there to make such a quick decision.
Yeah, and but long term, we're looking at the big picture. So we have a senior right now that we're looking at the colleges and applied. She applied to Michigan up here and Notre Dame. But she, so that's a big change.
So the mayor's
for us
half happy.
But it's long term, big picture. It really works for us as a family, but it does cut in the middle of a certain time.
Right,
so,
right. So I don't really expect you to have much of an impression of Garden City yet, because as we record this, you've only been here a week. But what are you hoping to bring to Garden City, I guess, is the question.
I think really an outsider's perspective. I know it's always an issue when someone comes in new of who are they don't know us. We should have somebody exclusively from in-house. And that works a lot of times. As I mentioned, the department heads already in the meeting. We'll hire in-house as much as we can, but we're going to bring in some outsiders periodically too that are maybe more qualified, that just have better eyes, or new eyes at least, to look at things. So I'm asking a lot of questions of why this and why that, and it seems it's pretty obvious some things were just because that's the way it's always been done. And since I worked at several different governments from county and city, I've got a great perspective, I think, coming in to see where we can go with things, shake it up a little bit as far as, here's some new ideas. But what I found is that everyone seems to be very accommodating. So not just the staff itself, the residents I've met, and then I was just down at DDA at a meeting a few moments ago, and everyone has their heart into this community, and especially the long-term residents. I mean, it's rare you come to a place where people can tell you that they've lived there in the same house their entire life. And now we have the same house. I was born and raised in Allentown, Pennsylvania. My mother's still over there in PA. But staying in that same place is pretty phenomenal. And I've come across probably 10 people that have told me they've born and raised in the same house. So you have that continuity, and you just have a love for a community that I've just never seen anywhere else. So put that together with the potential of economy just turning a little bit at this point. Some new department heads have come in, and maybe more in the future of just jazzed up people. It's exciting. I think we're going to have a great future.
A story you told me over the weekend that is really a fascinating story. When you were in Macon, Georgia, they were producing the movie 42
Yes,
there, correct?
yes.
So you were involved in helping facilitate the fields and the facilities.
They have Georgia's got a great production program for movies. The
film incentives.
Yes, The Walking Dead, of course, is filmed down there. But even talking to production people, the people with the cars, historic cars, they said they haven't left the state in the last couple of years because every movie is now filmed in Atlanta and Georgia. And Macon, if anyone knows anything about Macon, there's two different states. There's Atlanta and then there's Georgia. So Macon's in Georgia, totally different atmospheres because the international flavor of Atlanta. But yeah, 42 was filmed down there, the Jackie Robinson story. So spent a lot of time with Harrison Ford, and the star is Chadwick Boseman. That's now the Black Panther. Been in a number of movies. Bingo Long was an old movie filmed down there. But at the same time, we had Clint Eastwood with Trouble with the Curve was filmed at our place in our stadium. The Need for Speed, kind of a Fast and Furious type of movie, was filmed down in our park down there and in our downtown, and everything would come through our department. So it was really entertaining to be behind the scenes on those movie sets and then see them come out. 42 is just a phenomenal movie, but it was great for the staff, got everyone jazzed up, and well, we from there actually created bought one of those big movie screens. Those 40-foot screens, and the first time we ever used it was for 42. So just as it came out, we had our own showing in the stadium that it was filmed in.
Oh, very nice.
Put some brochure flyers together of where all the scenes were filmed, and had the residents be able to walk around and be there where those things were filmed, because movie sets aren't the exact same as reality. And that was a great atmosphere. Enjoyed it. Good.
Well, it seems like you have a non-traditional background when it comes to being a city manager, which that's not a bad thing. But I mean, you do have a very varied background, and hopefully that will work out for you.
Yep, and that's what I think I bring. I can talk to any department about anything because I've had that experience. But one thing I've talked about right from the start during my interview and to the staff is the ethical foundation. You know, from this point on, no matter what, and then of course most people do follow a foundation anyway of ethics, but it's to be fair, to be honest, tell the truth, keep your word, exercise integrity. And as long as we're treating the residents, the elected officials, or anyone else, we're being fair to everybody. You know, we're honest, we're keeping our word, exercising integrity. You can't go wrong. And that's something I bring. I have, as I've said before to people, you'll never see me on the front of a newspaper unless we're holding awards as a staff, because that's just not my style. I spend a night going home to the family, wife and kids, and that's what I see again in the values when I talk about Midwestern values is just come to work, do a good job, do your best you can. If we make a mistake, we apologize and we move on, but have your word be gold. If you say you're going to do something, then get it done. And my son asked me one day, I taught college classes also for 5 years when I was down in Georgia at Mercer University, was one of the schools. And I have a last class was Doc's Tips for the Road. Just things in life I wish I knew at that age, 20-some-year-old. And my kids came to one of the classes, and that's one of the things I talked about was, first of all, everything I talked about, my kids afterward, I said, what did you learn tonight? And one of my kids said, nothing. You talk about these things every day anyway. But one was, my son said, well, you talked about being your word is gold, that if you say it, you're going to do it. I said, you have to. And he said, what if you can't, Dad? And I said, you do it anyway. He goes, no, what if you can? I said, you do it anyway. He goes, seriously, if you can't follow through, I said, then you don't say you could do it in the first place. That's where your word should be gold. So any residents that deal with me, and of course the elected officials or anyone else, will find pretty quickly that I enjoy the laughing, I enjoy smiling, I enjoy life. But at the same time, if I can help you, we're going to help you. If staff can help you, and everyone's going to be treated fair, and we're going to be honest, keep our word, exercise integrity, and tell the truth. So good stuff.
We wish you the best of luck, because if you succeed, we succeed.
That's right.
And I'm sure we'll see you a lot more on this program and throughout the community in the upcoming weeks.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
All right, Dale Dougherty, the new city manager for the city of Garden City. That's Omni Edition Garden City for today. Thanks for watching, and goodbye, everybody.